Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project, on this pre-election edition of Illinois Rising. And Pat, as a lifelong Cubs fan, congratulations
on Cubs, go.
Your Cubs World Series victory.
Thank you. It was long awaited, and what makes it sweet for me, Dan, is not just that my father was a Cub fan, and that my son and my wife are Cubs fan, and my family's Cub fan, and we've waited this long for this unbelievable moment. That's special, but what's also special is how much you're suffering. That also makes it special for me.
Well, look, I'm the first one to say the best team won. I like to be a good sport about these things, even though I'm a never Cubs White Sox fan. And I will admit that once every 108 years, I'm wrong about the Cubs.
Yeah, you were this time.
But the interesting story during the World Series, the Chicago story that has a political intersection, is these city council members.
It's amazing.
These 50 trained SEALs, the Chicago aldermen, and those that are crying and so entitled, demanding, outraged that their face value tickets that they enjoyed in the playoffs were not conferred to them in the World Series as well because of an ethics opinion from an inspector general at City Hall that said, no, actually, if you just pay face value for a ticket that's worth 50 times face value, that is an illicit gift. And as a city council member, you're going to vote on matters regarding Wrigley Field and construction projects and zoning issues and all kinds of things. And so that is an improper gift. And the response from some of these aldermen who are so insulated from accountability that they can bemoan not getting a $10,000 ticket for $150 is just incredible to me.
It is incredible because it just goes to show where their mindset is, not just on this issue, but on every issue. They are so insulated, Dan, from the realities that every other person faces, right? These are people making $100 and something thousand a year. So they're in that group of people through their government largesse that could actually maybe afford a $1,000 World Series ticket, and they cry poor and complain that their office doesn't bestow it upon them.
And just so you understand how pernicious the political culture is, how toxic it is in Chicago. Millie Santiago, who's a former reporter, Fourth Estate, and a freshman alderman, said this. She's 34th Ward alderman, 31st Ward. She said she's a, quote, poor alderman. I can't afford to buy a $1,000 ticket. I cannot afford that. Hey, Millie, welcome to the party. How many of your constituents can afford a $1,000 ticket? But they're not being conferred a face value ticket because they hold a sinecure like a feudal lord. I mean, it's just mind-bending to listen to what they say and for their constituents apparently to shrug their shoulders. Mike Zalewski, 23rd Ward. We don't live in a third world country where we're not allowed to go to a sporting event because we're on the city council. Who said you're not allowed to go?
Go, pay your ticket.
You can access StubHub just like anybody else.
Correct. It's ridiculous. And Dan, the sort of larger issue here, and you just touched on it. Who elects these people? I mean, this is so indicative of who they are as people, right? This is indicative of where their mindset is. Everything for me through my office. Do you honestly think that their job or their view in the world is to help their constituents, to help these people in these places where they represent that are, have tremendous poverty, that have failing schools? Do you think that's their first order of priority? It isn't, and this shows that, and I'm sure this isn't the only time they show it. Why did their constituents continue to put them in office? Is it lack of engagement? Is it that every vote's bought? What's the deal?
Anthony Beale is another one. It's just to show I'm not just being a homer for the Sox. Anthony Beale said, another alderman, well, I got face value tickets for the Sox, and they were in the World Series in 2005. So, so that means I should get face value for anything I want, whenever I want, regardless of the cost, regardless of the kind of the unequal treatment, regardless of the conflicts of interest as an elected official who's voting on matters that will impact the White Sox or the Cubs, the stadiums, all of these. To listen to these feudal lords talk, you understand why Chicago is the worst governed city in the country. And maybe some of what was said here will reverberate when it comes to spring elections next year. People will be reminded, because it's a very simple thing to understand, people will be reminded just how little regard your so-called elected representatives have for you in the city of Chicago.